So if you can have a guy that's in the audience that's yelling, I him, now me, I him, now me, and then that guy gets arrested for child charges, like what is going on here?
But there was something else going on here. Epstein was not some sort of whiz kid hedge fund manager. Epstein was playing a part. Epstein was a LARPer. Epstein was cast for a specific role, and he played it really well.
I don't believe this kid right now could possibly be the
I don't necessarily think they know what's going on yet. There's a lot of weird going on with this.
I know.
None of these things make any sense to me. Like, you're telling me that this kid who's not military trained, this guy, first of all, how did he get to the roof? How come nobody was looking? How come nobody was like, there's a direct line of sight between where he's sitting and those roofs? You guys didn't check? You don't have a drone? Like, that's insane. So he's on the roof. He jumps from the roof. He jumps down 14 feet.
So people are saying Charlie Kirk's death wasn't random at all, and Joe Rogan kind of hinted it was planned or something. Now what started as a sad story got everyone suspicious, even about what his wife been doing after all this.
It's a coincidence. Hold on to that thought. Did you know that Charlie Kirk's father, Robert W. Kirk, was actually the architect for Trump Towers? Also, did you know that Erica Lane Kirk won Miss Arizona USA in 2012? Don't forget, Donald Trump ran Miss America from 1996 until 2015. Seeing the correlation here? Now, I'm not saying age difference is a big thing, but did you know Erica was 5 years Charlie Sr.? But this is where coincidences aren't coincidences. People, this was so arranged. And there's so much more to Erica Kirk. Kind of like how she was all into basketball, didn't want to be all girly, never liked to dress up, even cut all her hair off, and ended up being Miss USA. How does that happen? How do you go from sports to Miss USA? And then they meet at a turning point event in 2018, where she's interviewing for a job for Turning Point.
So it all started when Joe Rogan talked about the case on his podcast and said the whole story just wasn't adding up. He noticed weird things that the news didn't really talk about, like a picture of some 22-year-old guy holding a fancy hunting gun, and Joe said that gun looked way too new and shiny for what they claimed happened.
Texted you when the Charlie Kirk thing happened because my antennas went up about, they showed the photo of that kid, of the guy that they have, the 22-year-old, whatever. And I was almost going to be like, dude, you think he's got the capability to do that?
Yeah, well, listen, there are people that look like that have the capability to do that.
Pretty accurate.
Nope,
No?
not hard. Not hard at all. Let me dispel that. Okay, 200 yards from a prone position with a dead-on rifle. So if you have a dead-on rifle, so you set this rifle, you set your 0 to 200 yards, right? You know how far you're going to It is not hard at all.
He a lot?
You don't have to a lot. I could do it tomorrow.
If you're but you are experienced. If it's someone that's never could they do it?
100%. Not
really?
If they've never they wouldn't know where to look. They'd have a hard time acquiring when you look through a scope, like when the reticle is weird, like sometimes
takes a minute.
You got to know the distance that you have to be from it to really line it up in your sights. But you could get a guy like my friend Andy Stump, who's a sniper in the SEALs. You could get him and he could show you how to do it in an afternoon, and then you could hit steel at 200 yards every time you pull the trigger.
One day you could learn.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Not that hard.
Because it feels insane to me. I'm like, seems tough.
It seems tough. We still haven't figured out whether or not the gun that Trump had a sight on it, because we weren't sure if it had a sight on it or if this guy was using iron sights. That was 140 yards. If you shot with iron sights, that's a lot harder, because iron sights is you're lining up. So you have these two things in the back and there's one thing at the front of the barrel, and you got to line those up perfectly, and that's how you stay accurate. That is a lot harder to do.
It's like old have those, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Pistols.
Yeah,
like you can buy a Glock, that's what it comes with.
Right.
But this kid had a rifle with a scope. Now, here's where it gets weird. The first images of this rifle with a scope, I swear to God, it looks like he has a composite stock on it. Like it looks like a modern 30-06 rifle. So a 30-06, so that's the rifle. 30-06 is like, that looks like a very modern looking stock. I mean, it might not be. It might be just a bad resolution. It might be wood. It's hard to tell. But if you showed me that and you said, hey, this is my cousin's rifle, is this any good? I'd be like, Looks like a standard bolt-action rifle with like a sophisticated modern scope on it. Sure. Now, apparently, the narrative is that this is his grandfather's rifle from World War I and doesn't have a serial code. Okay.
Interesting.
Okay. Why? Wait.
Then there was this older guy who suddenly started yelling saying he did it, and then out of nowhere, he just took his pants off, and everyone was like, what even is happening right now?
There was that one guy who was the decoy. All right, so you got this guy who's an older guy who starts yelling out. Didn't he take his pants down? He took his pants down. This guy was at 9/11. He was at the Boston bombings.
All the hits.
He called in a fake bomb at another place, and then he did this at this thing. Right after, so somehow or another, this guy has the state of mind that the moment someone gets shot, he yells out and says, I did it, and takes his pants down or something like that. I don't know exactly what he did. Then, ready for this? He gets arrested for child right away.
Right after this happened?
Oh, right away. He's in jail for child. Why is that? Well, now you can't interview him.
Right.
Right, and because when the internet people start going, how are you at all these different things? Like, what are the odds? Like, if someone ran it through one of the ChatGPT perplexity things, like, what are the odds that this guy would be at all those different events and be involved? Like, zero.
This is the guy?
Yeah.
I just like that the pants down part is just insane. It's like, why is your dick out?
I did it. Listen, I'm not saying this guy isn't insane. He's clearly insane. Or not. Or he's professionally insane.
Joe Rogan thought all these little things weren't just weird. They felt way too perfect. Like everything was planned out to help whoever did it hide what really went down.
They said that he took it apart and then put it back together again. Shut the f*** up. Do you know how much time it would take to do that if you were highly skilled?
To disassemble a gun.
To disassemble a rifle so that you can get it in a backpack. And by the way, not going to fit. Not going to fit.
In a backpack.
And then somehow or another reconnects it once he gets off the roof? What? What's that about?
Is that what they pitched, huh?
Yeah. And then he's supposed to get it in that stupid backpack. It's literally, it makes no sense.
And the elevator music was a nice touch, by the way.
Yeah. So this is just a narrative, right? Yeah. We watch a guy jump off the roof, and then we supposedly find this rifle. So if you can have a guy that's in the audience that's yelling, I him, now me, I him, now me, and then that guy gets arrested for child charges, like he's like, what is going on here? So and then weird. You find this rifle, and then you say, oh, he assembled it and he reassembled it. Like, okay. I wish I was a cop. I'd sit in a room like, this story is horse.
So a tiny clip of what Joe Rogan said went crazy online, and someone even tagged Elon Musk in it, and he jumped in with one of his mysterious tweets saying, the truth doesn't hide forever, and that one line just broke the internet.
The more they keep looking into it, the more they're like, this doesn't feel like a real... It feels super fabricated.
But here's the thing. Just like I was talking about when people are arguing on social media, it's all part of the plan. If you want things to be...
I wanted it so bad.
If you want people to lose all faith that anyone is going to solve anything, you add a bunch of... If you're going to kill a guy, you add a bunch of other wacky... that doesn't make any sense, and you spam it out there at the same time. You leave a gun that didn't do it out in the woods. You do a bunch of like that.
You have an old man put his out and yell, I did it, I did it.
Yeah, you get some kid who has a boyfriend who's a furry, and you talk to him on Discord.
People started watching Joe's clip over and over, trying to figure out if Elon knew something or if Joe was hinting at more. Once that clip of Joe Rogan went viral, people lost their minds with wild theories. Everyone was like, why are Joe and Elon suddenly talking about this old case? Like, are they hinting at something? Then Elon made it even crazier by liking Candace Owens' posts about how the media covered up Charlie Kirk's death, and that sent the internet into full chaos. People started dragging Charlie's wife into it. Hashtags everywhere, news outlets, acting chill, but clearly adding more fuel. And when the full podcast came out, Joe was like, nothing adds up from the gun to the suspect to the missing info info from police. And by then, folks online were convinced this story was just getting started, not ending.
Sickening is definitely the right adjective, I think, to describe how a lot of us are feeling. And all I know how to do is to gather information, to research, and to investigate. And nothing is making sense. Now, it could not be making sense because we've not arrived at the conclusion. The FBI, I will say, has recently come out and said they're looking for another person. Good, because what we have so far obviously cannot be it. I feel, I was insisting that everybody read that book, Chaos, about the Charles Manson murders. And what we learn from that book is that if the government does want to hide something, what they do is they give you so much information that you don't even know what's real. So many different possible ways that things could have gone down, so many different manners, so many people speaking, so many publications publishing. And it's just meant to be chaotic, to drive you crazy and to just go, okay, I'm just going to accept whenever the authority says something and not prod any further. We can't allow that to happen here. I won't allow that to happen here, because this something terrible has traumatized the world, okay? And I feel as though when it comes to this, the media, the government, the talking heads, everyone is confusing us about what actually took place with Charlie Kirk, this event, how it got set up. I even would like to know who picked the venue. Okay.
Then Candace Owens went live again, and she said Charlie had started talking about stuff that made some powerful people in the government real nervous, and that the things he was asking and saying might have made him look like a problem. They wanted to Simon
Charlie, in his own words, he was starting to talk about topics that you're not really allowed to talk about when you take money and big checks are being written, and that pressure was increasing every single day. In fact, he was telling the truth even about Jeffrey Epstein. Take a listen.
Epstein, with his little friend Ghislaine and Ghislaine's father, Robert Maxwell, who was obviously a spy of the Israeli intelligence agencies, that there was something else going on here. Epstein was not some sort of whiz kid hedge fund manager. Epstein was playing a part. Epstein was a LARPer. Epstein was cast for a specific role, and he played it really well. The sweatpants and the Harvard jacket, the kind of disheveled hair, looking as if he was so smart and above the clouds that he was doing advanced mathematic equations on the back of napkins. But if you actually go into some of the videos of people that met with Epstein at the time, they said he was awfully unimpressive when it came to finance and markets and economics. And it's nothing new that if you're in the intel agencies, you want to try and get as much blackmail on powerful people as possible. Easy, not hard. And this is no longer just speculation. First of all, the evidence that shows that Epstein was a creation of either Mossad, Israeli intelligence, American intelligence, Saudi intelligence, or maybe he was just maybe he was just a guy that countries would go to and park a couple $100 million and say, hey, can you get one of the members of the royal family with a 13-year-old so we can get them to do what we want to do? Members of Congress are actively being blackmailed. The Epstein playbook is being used on a daily basis.
Candace claimed there was a message from Charlie that made it seem like someone he trusted had turned on him. And she told everyone that right before he died, he was worried because some of the people who used to support him with money suddenly backed out, and he didn't understand why.
Charlie writes in this group chat, just lost another huge Jewish donor, $2 million a year because we won't cancel Tucker. I'm thinking of inviting Candace. Somebody writes, ugh. Charlie writes, Jewish donors play into all of the stereotypes. I cannot and will not be bullied like this, leaving me no choice but to leave the pro-Israel cause. And somebody writes, a donor writes, please do not invite Candace. That might feel good short term, but it's not good long term. In my opinion, like all groups, you're going to get a wide variety of opinions. That nasty free will thing that God bestowed on us makes life frustrating at times after the dust settles a bit, maybe. So again, this is 48 hours before Charlie Kirk was assassinated. He was very clear and he was very explicit, and he did not back down, not in that Hamptons meeting, which they're all lying about, nor in this text thread. I'm not going to reveal the names of the other 7. Actually, you know what? I disagree.
Joe's fans started picking up on something weird. They saw that some of the things Candace said sounded a lot like what Joe mentioned before. Both talked about trust, both pointed out how stuff wasn't adding up, and both kind of hinted that something about the wife felt off. And now because of all this and her link with Donald Trump, an old clip popped up where Trump was seen joking about Charlie saying he couldn't dodge a bullet the way he did, which made people even more suspicious.
Come very far to the left. They've rammed vehicles into federal law enforcement, fired sniper rifles at ICE agents, and me, but I made a turn at a good time. I turned to the right. Charlie couldn't believe it, actually. He said, "How the hell did you make that turn?" I said, "I don't know."
Out of nowhere, the prosecutors in Utah dropped some so-called evidence, saying they had text messages from the suspect, Tyler Robinson, to his girlfriend, and that instantly made the internet explode. People started saying those texts didn't feel real at all. Big creators online said the way he supposedly talked didn't sound like a 22-year-old, and that it felt too perfect, like someone wrote it just to make the case look clean and convincing.
In these exchanges, there's ellipses above, if you look really closely.
Yeah.
And it looks like they're cherry picking certain exchanges, so that my dad is super MAGA just comes out of nowhere because they picked it from a totally different part of the conversation.
Yeah, these messages are clearly doctored, is what I would say. They're doctored. Now, they could decide why they're doing that. Tyler's being forthcoming. We're protecting him in some capacity. I find that to be unacceptable. Okay? Unacceptable. I want every single text message. I want timestamps. It is conspicuous that you are not telling us when this was sent, because it sounds like it's when the campus is on lockdown and he's got to go back and he's got to clean up, and then all of a sudden we're in the next day when his dad is getting clued in after the picture's been released. They're not telling us that, okay? And you have a right to be a little bit uncomfortable about that, because I'm a bit uncomfortable about that. We need full answers. Further to that point, I have found this strange from the beginning, that for whatever reason, we're not hearing too much about this Lance guy, other than like he's been extremely cooperative. He's handed over his messages. I'm not implying that Lance was involved. I am implying that it's weird that we're not hearing more.
Steve Bannon, who used to work with Donald Trump, said on his podcast that he didn't believe those texts at all. He said they sounded way too stiff and fake, like someone just wrote a movie script and tried to pass it off as real messages.
To Charlie, Candace Owens says that the FBI is trying to sell a narrative. What do you think of these allegations?
I don't believe about the official narrative they're putting out there. I don't believe this kid right now could possibly be, about all the evidence I've seen, of at least all the videos I've watched, everything I've seen, that text messages, the guy's writing a Shakespeare sonnet. Are you kidding?
People also noticed the camera SD cards disappeared that day, and a man touched his hat right before it all went down, making it seem like some kind of planned signal.
How many mass been in America over the last 10 years?
Counting or not counting gang violence?
Graham, do you know how many mass there have been in America?
Andrew Colvett said on Charlie's show last week that there was a reason those camera cards were taken. Like, what did Charlie say that they didn't want the world to hear? And Candace Owens already got her own theory about it.
Defensible to be dumb, and he was under an increasing amount of pressure. Not just people telling him, oh, well, I'm upset with who you're inviting, but flat out telling him that he was not allowed to invite certain people to his events. They were threatening to pull out money. Charlie was getting a lot of really nasty text messages, and many of them pertaining to Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens, but Tucker Carlson was really the focus when it came to America Fest. How could Charlie allow these debates about Israel to take place? How could he allow Dave Smith, who, by the way, is Jewish, how could Charlie allow this other position to meet the stage? Because obviously when people start to hear the debates, what Dave Smith is saying sounds so rational, but it was up to Charlie to not allow those things to happen. I would like to contextualize Bibi. Again, these are things Bibi brought up publicly, which he didn't have to. He didn't have to bring up the letter. He didn't have to bring up the phone call, but he chose to do this less than 24 hours after Charlie Kirk was Personally, Bibi, I would have appreciated if you guys used all of your spyware. You'd spy on us for years to maybe track down the killer. But I guess this is where you thought it was best to do a little propaganda for Israel would be better than us helping us track down the killer. But anyway, so Bibi Netanyahu in that phone call, what took place was a couple of weeks ago before Charlie lost his life. Charlie was in the Hamptons and he had more than one event, but he had essentially what was staged, an intervention was staged by Bill Ackman. Because Charlie's rational thoughts about Israel were a no-no. This is not the route that you should be going on. And Charlie was surrounded by his friends, his quote-unquote friends. Bill Ackman was very upset, and threats were made. That is what I am told, and I will tell you that I am very happy for Bill Ackman to dispute this narrative. In fact, he was asked to dispute this narrative. Max Blumenthal went out to him today, and Bill Ackman came back and said, I have receipts I can show you, and he did not provide the receipts. That this is not how it went down. I know it went down this way. I'm waiting for one of them to go on record and to say that it didn't go down this way. It was at this time that Bibi Netanyahu was called and Charlie was invited to Israel. This was an under duress situation, I would say, because I've been in these situations before. When I started asking very sensible questions about Israel, as someone who had dedicated her political life to supporting Israel, many times alongside Charlie Kirk, I was met with the very same pressure. And just like Charlie was being invited to Israel, I was invited somewhere else. And when this arrived to me, it felt like...
She claimed Charlie was paid to push Israel's side of the story. And when he stopped, they used it against him. When you start putting everything together, it really feels like there's more going on with Charlie's death than what the media is saying. And a lot of people think his wife had something to do with it. One person on Reddit said that video she posted of herself holding Charlie's hand and saying she loved him over and over just felt weird and fake, same with her speech. And when she touched his office chair, it looked like acting. They said her whole vibe was like one of those reality TV people. And another person said, normal folks don't plan a whole flashy show with lights and fireworks a week after their husband gets killed. But some think she might just be a puppet in something bigger, like she's being told what to do by Turning Point America. So now everyone's trying to guess what's really going on. And if you love digging into wild stories like this and want all the latest tea before anyone else, make sure you hit that follow on. Taylor tells all, because you already know we always spill it first.